In a heartbeat, my world spiraled into chaos when my husband's voice pierced through the phone, sharp and accusatory. "Why do you always fall apart when I need you?" he complained, completely unaware of the urgency that had led me to the hospital, our unborn child's safety hanging in the balance. "We're here, hungry, waiting for your terrible cooking while you're off relaxing in the hospital," he continued, his words lacking any trace of concern. He declared he was fed up and intended to go out to eat with his parents, leaving me to find my own way home. His anger seeped through the line, blaming me for a situation beyond my control, filling me with dread and worry for our unborn child, whom I desperately wanted to protect. Not long ago, I was a passionate cosmetics salesperson, celebrated for my dedication and hard work. With an array of awards and a solid reputation, I relished my job and the confidence it instilled in me. Meeting my husband felt like a fairy tale, culminating in a whirlwind romance and marriage. But the joy of discovering my pregnancy forced me to make a difficult decision to leave my job due to the risk of miscarriage, a choice I made with our family's future in mind. As I faced the trials of pregnancy, my husband's support dwindled, transforming from excitement to frustration. Simple tasks felt Herculean, and my attempts to meet his expectations often fell painfully short. "Where's my lunch?" he'd ask, only to scoff at the simple sandwiches I managed to whip up, criticizing my inability to handle smells. His dismissive words cut deep. Pregnancy is not an illness, belittling my struggles and leaving me to fend for myself. This shift in his demeanor starkly contrasted with the man I had once fallen in love with. His companionship during doctor's visits vanished, as did any empathy for the household chores that had become overwhelming for me. Our home, once filled with love and respect, had morphed into a battlefield, where I fought not only for my well-being but for that of our unborn child, clinging to the hope that we might find our way back to understanding. I thought, perhaps he's just exhausted. He's mentoring a newcomer at work, which has been demanding. Maybe that's why he's been less patient and more irritable. I keep telling myself that once the baby arrives, his busy schedule will ease, and we'll find our family rhythm. "It's going to be okay," I whisper, caressing my growing belly, striving to maintain a positive outlook despite my changing body and our strained relationship. Yet, things continued to worsen between us. To make matters worse, my in-laws began dropping by unannounced, heightening my stress levels. They scrutinized the cleanliness of our home and voiced concerns about how we'd manage once the baby arrived. Despite their criticisms, they expected hospitality, demanding I prepare something for them on the spot. Caught off guard and ill-prepared, I felt overwhelmed and criticized for not being a better host. Each visit from my in-laws concluded with disappointment, my husband siding with them and never defending me. My best efforts fell short. I felt inadequate in their eyes. One fateful day, after being sent out to buy groceries while heavily pregnant, I collapsed under the strain. When I woke up in the hospital, I learned I had passed out from overexertion, but thankfully, our baby was still safe. The doctors advised me to stay for a few days of observation. I noticed missed calls from my husband and realized he must have been worried when I didn't return from the store. But when I finally called him back, hoping to hear some concern or relief in his voice, I was met with anger instead. "Where have you been?" he demanded, his tone harsh and unforgiving, as if my health and our baby's safety were of no consequence. I shuddered at his words. "I'm sorry, I collapsed at the grocery store and had to be rushed to the hospital. They've put me on 4 fluids and want me to stay here for a few days." But his response was cold, dismissing my plight as an inconvenience. "You collapsed, and I'm supposed to care? Why didn't you answer my calls? You're so slow." His words struck me like a blow, and I couldn't bear the thought of our unborn child being exposed to such negativity. "Please stop yelling. It's not good for the baby," I pleaded, but he was relentless. "We're here starving, waiting on your terrible cooking while you're just taking it easy in the hospital." His intent to dine out with his parents and leave me to fend for myself, even in my condition, was glaringly clear. His voice, filled with anger and devoid of compassion, made me recoil, not wanting to subject my baby to any more of his harsh words. I ended the call, feeling utterly alone and disheartened. As I returned to my hospital room, tears streamed down my face uncontrollably. It was in that vulnerable moment that a familiar, comforting voice broke through my despair. "Are you okay?" I looked up to see Helen, a customer I had grown close to during my days as a cosmetic salesperson, offering me a towel. Relief and warmth washed over me. "Helen, it's really you. I'm so glad you remember me." Our reunion felt like a twist of fate, a much-needed reminder of kindness and human connection in my darkest hour. Helen had been more than just a customer. She was a woman who, after a difficult divorce, had lost her self-confidence and stopped wearing makeup entirely. I remembered the day I approached her at the cosmetics counter, offering to help her explore some new looks. The transformation in her appearance was more than just skin deep. It marked a moment of emotional healing, a step toward regaining her self-esteem. Over time, Helen became more than a customer. She became a friend. But then, 5 years before I left my job, she had stopped coming, and I often wondered what had become of her. Now, here she was, a beacon of support when I needed it most. "I came back hoping to reconnect with you, Helen," I said, a hint of nostalgia in my voice. "To my surprise, when I visited your old workplace, I learned that you had left. which really caught me off guard. I didn't expect that, Helen replied, her tone a mix of surprise and disappointment. I'm sorry for dropping in unannounced. I've been abroad for work. I run a business overseas, and it's been quite hectic. It feels like ages since I've had a chance to enjoy some summer and relaxation. Once things calmed down a bit, I decided to return, and can you believe it? Right after I tried to find you, I ended up here with appendicitis. She chuckled, the sound lifting the heaviness of the moment. It's just in the early stages, so they're treating me with medication. Honestly, if I were still abroad, the medical bills would have been astronomical. In a way, I'm relieved it happened here, she continued, her optimism shining through her familiar smile. Our unexpected reunion lifted my spirits, and soon we were joyfully reminiscing about old times. As the conversation flowed, Helen, with her ever-gentle smile, delicately asked, "You don't have to share if you're uncomfortable, but I noticed you seemed upset earlier. What's on your mind?" Trusting her, not just as a former customer but as a true friend, I opened up about the struggles with my husband and in-laws. I'm really worried about bringing my child into this environment. I fear they'll be treated the same way I am. And now, without my job, the idea of living independently, especially with a baby, feels overwhelming. To my astonishment, Helen made an incredibly generous offer. I have an apartment you could use. I manage a few properties as part of a project on some land I inherited. It's a cozy 2-bedroom with a separate bathroom, soundproof walls, and it's located in a safe neighborhood near amenities like supermarkets and a police station. There's no need for a deposit right now, and you can start paying rent whenever you're settled. It's a really good deal. What do you think? Her enthusiasm was palpable, and her sincerity brought a laugh of disbelief from me. Are you sure you can offer it at such favorable terms? Overwhelmed by Helen's kindness, I replied, absolutely, Helen, I trust you'll take good care of the place, and I believe it's important for us to support each other in times of need. You're more than welcome to stay there, she assured me, her generosity shining brightly. Helen's unexpected kindness felt like a beacon of hope, offering not just a place to stay but the promise of a fresh start. Eager to help someone she valued, she extended her apartment to me, an offer I couldn't refuse. Gratefully, I accepted. Days later, after the doctors gave me the green light, I left the hospital and moved straight into the apartment Helen had prepared. She had arranged everything effortlessly over a phone call, showcasing her remarkable generosity. I didn't return to the home I shared with my husband. Instead, I embraced this new beginning in Helen's cozy, welcoming apartment. Although I felt guilty for not paying rent immediately, Helen brushed off my concerns with a laugh, insisting it was perfectly fine. During my husband's work hours, I discreetly returned to our shared home to collect my belongings, only to realize how little of it felt truly mine. The house seemed as empty as my heart felt within its walls. Helen's support didn't stop with the apartment. She introduced me to a lawyer who had once helped her, solidifying my decision to pursue a divorce. The lawyer's encouragement became a beacon of hope, and with each hospital visit confirming the health of my growing baby, my resolve only strengthened. On one such visit, as I stepped outside, my heart sank at the sight of my husband waiting for me. Panic surged through me, and despite my best efforts to escape, my pregnancy slowed me down. He confronted me about the lawyer and our living situation. Gripping my arm tightly, I stood my ground, insisting on communicating through the lawyer regarding divorce compensation and child support. His refusal to provide support and his demands for my return met with my firm rejection. As he tried to forcibly take me back, a young woman intervened. Rebecca, as I soon learned, knew my husband and quickly positioned herself protectively in front of me. Their familiar exchange did little to mask the underlying tension. "Let her go, George," Rebecca asserted, refusing to let him take me against my will. Her determination and the implied threat of involving the police shifted the dynamics of the situation, giving me a glimmer of hope and the courage to stand up for myself. When my husband heard the mention of the police, he paled and swiftly retreated. A wave of relief washed over me, making my legs feel weak. Rebecca quickly came to my side, concern etched on her face. "Are you okay?" she asked, and I apologized, explaining how relieved I felt. Without hesitation, she called a taxi, insisting on ensuring I got home safely. Even though I felt guilty for the trouble, she reassured me it was no bother. When I told her my address, she was surprised to learn I lived just below her. It was a happy coincidence that we were neighbors. Rebecca turned out to be a new employee at my husband's workplace, having reported his inappropriate behavior, which resulted in his removal as her mentor. George was notorious for his lack of empathy toward female employees, making insensitive comments about personal issues like menstruation and marriage. Rebecca shared how his behavior extended beyond work, something I knew all too well from my own experiences during my pregnancy. 3 weeks after our initial meeting, Rebecca and I had formed a close bond, sharing dinners like old friends. She updated me that George had been transferred to a subsidiary company following multiple complaints about his conduct at work. Interestingly, Rebecca was the daughter of Helen, the successful businesswoman who managed several properties, including the apartment I was staying in. George had bragged about handling Helen's account, but his behavior had led to a significant shift in his professional standing. After learning about George's actions, both at work and towards me, Helen pushed for his transfer. Rebecca, determined and capable, had taken steps to address workplace issues independently, but once she realized I was connected to her mother, she felt compelled to act. Helen encouraged her to present all evidence against George, which ultimately resulted in his transfer. Now, with his decreased income and increased workload, George's situation had changed drastically. Helen, with her vast experience, advised me not to give in to any of George's attempts to gain sympathy, emphasizing the importance of remaining resolute in my decision to divorce. Her guidance, rooted in her knowledge and experience, provided me with much-needed reassurance. After I decided to divorce George, he reached out through the lawyer, lamenting about how difficult work had become and how much he missed me. He even expressed remorse and a desire to reconcile, but I remained firm in my decision, supported by Helen. Eventually, George had no choice but to agree to the divorce and the terms for child support and damages, which he would be required to pay. Over time, my next major challenge arose, dealing with my in-laws, particularly my father-in-law, who was overly enthusiastic about the baby being a boy. I sensed trouble brewing, and it didn't take long before my in-laws made their move. One day, as I was about to leave, my father-in-law suddenly grabbed my arm. He had followed Rebecca, intending to confront her, but then spotted me instead. He demanded that I hand over my baby once he was born, insisting that the child was the family's heir. Despite my struggles to free myself, his grip was unyielding. Just then, a commanding voice cut through the tension, demanding that he let me go. In a swift movement, Rebecca executed a judo technique, sending him sprawling to the ground. I was taken aback to learn that she had mastered judo to protect herself and her mother during tough times, boasting national titles as a top-ranked judoka. Rebecca stood her ground, confronting my father-in-law with fierce resolve. She reprimanded him for ignoring George's abusive behavior and for trying to interfere in my life. "You have no right to meddle in her future," she insisted, defending my right to start anew. As the sound of sirens grew louder, I realized Rebecca had called for help before rushing to my rescue. Nearby, my mother-in-law sat quietly in the car, observing as the police arrived and took both her and my father-in-law away. My father-in-law was arrested, and after some reflection, my mother-in-law decided to divorce him. She wanted to forge a new path for herself, opting to return to the countryside and live life on her own terms. George attempted to persuade his mother to let him accompany her, claiming he was tired of his job and the lawyers. However, she firmly rejected him. Through her lawyer, my mother-in-law conveyed her apologies to me and left behind some money as a gesture of goodwill. Helen explained that it's common for people to feel lost after leaving a marriage, and the money was likely my mother-in-law's way of showing support for my son's future. I was taken aback by her generosity, given her previous behavior, but I felt grateful for her attempt to make amends. After finalizing the divorce, I gave birth to a healthy baby boy. My mother-in-law settled into a new life in the countryside, choosing solitude over remaining with George. When my father-in-law was released, he found that my mother-in-law had demolished the house before her departure. He ended up moving in with George, which only stirred up more trouble and eventually led to George's resignation due to his tarnished reputation. Through it all, child support payments continued to arrive reliably, likely managed by Helen and the lawyer. Rebecca, for her part, gained recognition at work and was promoted to project leader, earning admiration from her colleagues. Helen's various projects, including women-only housing and accommodations for foreigners, were thriving. As for me, once my son was old enough, I planned to return to work. Helen had offered me a position at a new high-end cosmetics store she was opening, and I was excited about the opportunity. Helen continued to support me wholeheartedly, showering my son with affection as if he were her own grandchild. Rebecca also made time to visit us, both women serving as reminders of the strength and kindness that had helped me through my darkest days. Inspired by their resilience, I was determined to be just as strong and protective of my son, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead.